Get focused, it's off the ground, you don't want more of this. She wants a crown, you say you tried it. Cause when you found it, like when it's Friday, no, she's rising. Look at me, yo. You get me going. Frequencies up, the signs are all showing. In the city, it's underground. Crowd on the metro, sing you around, making you dances with the glances. Don't you know that? Take chances. Oh, you get me up, you get me going. Frequencies up, the signs are all showing. Oh, oh. That was a song by a guy called Silk Prince. Silk is one of the first friends I met when I moved to Montreal. You see, even though I'm someone who loves being on the stage, I'm not necessarily the most comfortable off the stage. And so though at that point I'd been playing open mics for several years, I'd never really gotten to know the people I played with. I might know their names and hopefully they knew mine from the set list, but I never really went up to talk to them. And here I was in this new city where I wasn't doing a great job of making friends either because I was in grad school and most people seemed laser focused just on what we were studying. I didn't really have any connections with them in extracurricular life. And this guy just comes and sits at my table in the overcrowded Old Orchard pub on Prince Arthur, and he introduces himself as Silk Prince. And I saw him on and off for the next few years as I lived in Montreal, and I got to know so many of his rap/songs. He sings in a sort of hybrid reggae rapping style. Songs like Flicker, Hombre del Fuego, Frequency, Forever, Models, Oligarch, Bounce Up, Feel It, and This Side of Town. I look forward to my conversation with Silk Prince today, which is going to be a real throwback to me, and I'm happy that I get the chance to introduce his music to you. So I'm joined today by Silk Prince, which I assume means like Prince, but smoother. And you know, I've talked to several artists on this program about stage names, but you really live yours. Like I know your real name, but the primary thing I've always called you was just Silk Prince. But what's the story behind that name?
Well, actually, I was just asked to join a band by two friends of mine. One name was Miguel and Kellis. Stage name was Baggers and Coco Killer. And so they saw my demeanor and then they just gave me that name, Silk Prince, and it just stuck ever since.
Yeah. So how many years has that been?
Many years. Trust
okay,
me.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back to the start of your musical journey. You come from an island that most people probably think is the Dominican Republic and isn't. So take us back to Dominica. When does Silk Prince start singing?
Yeah, so I started singing basically at like 19. Yeah, so I used to play basketball a lot, and I was just getting a lot of injuries, so I just decided like I was going to like maybe change my career. So because like the basketball was like the crowds, I mean it was a tough competition one time, and I wasn't big, you know. I mean I wasn't like a big person, and I could jump high and I could really run fast and stuff. The injuries were just too much, man. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's like people people used to push me in the air like while I was in the air, and like because I was light, I would just move really fast. So it's like they were just making basketball like too much. So I decided music was my thing, and I concentrated on music, and I hooked up with this band, Cool Killer and Baggers, and then we started touring the island.
So is it an advantage to be from a country of 70,000 people? Like, do you count as famous there?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, in your mind, I mean, it's the same type of thing, you know. I mean, you kind of get to know the people around you, and basically, like, if you get like, let's say, like about 1,000 people to follow you, to you, that is like a lot of people in any event. Actually, it's just that in here, it just snowballs. It's like once you get 1,000, like 2,000 is easier to get.
Mhm.
Whereas down here, it has a kind of limit to
Right.
to what. But even though, I mean, like my record was getting played in different islands, so it was getting played in like in Saint Lucia, and it was getting played in like Saint Vincent and Grenada also, and Trinidad.
Yeah. No, I'm certainly still looking for the first 1,000. You have some new music out. I believe this one is called Papa Smurf and the Career Crooks from Sherbrooke, #7. Uh,
Yeah.
are all the albums going to be Papa Smurf albums from now on? How did that thing start, and why is it still going?
No, because I was living on Sherbrooke for a long time, and I mean that is the English part of Montreal. So so basically, like that is where like a lot of English happens. So I mean, I definitely wanted to pay homage to that spot.
Smurfs are just an old favorite, I guess.
Yeah. So and Papa's, I mean, it's just the guy, it's just the people you end up meeting at the first time I came to Montreal. It's just like they were kind of ratchet, you know what I mean? And so in just a section, I was able to go because just across the train tracks, there is like the more the less the socio-economically challenged part of the city. So it's just like sometimes you would go there and so I mean just to and I mean the neighborhood separated by the train tracks basically.
Mm.
So it's just like to give a complete description of the neighborhood, like you add
Right.
that type.
Though I guess for people who don't know the geography of Montreal, that's like a 20-30 minute walk south of Sherbrooke, or I guess closer in some parts. But you're sort of like connecting these two parts of the city that aren't actually next to each other, but it's sort of like your metaphorical world, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know. Did Montreal feel more French than you expected when you got there?
yeah. I mean, well, I mean, the first time I came there, I lived at Sherbrooke. So
Right.
actually, the first time I lived was at Beaudry. So like, yeah, it was definitely French to me, and it was like international French. So that
Right.
was my first impression. But then after living at Sherbrooke, I got like the whole glimpse of the city. I understand what happened.
Right. Because I guess going to school in English Canada, you're taught that, well, a lot of Quebec wants to separate, but not Montreal. Montreal is more like Canada than Quebec. And
Mhm.
I assumed before I lived there that that meant Montreal was very English, but you go there and it's still, well, I mean, lots of people speak fluent English, but it's still 80% French as a first language. You expect it to be English, you're going to be thrown off.
Yes and no.
I mean, what was your expectation coming to the city?
What I would say is that like it's the same culture as Americans, basically, in a way. Like the people who in my age group and whatever, it's like we grow up with the same things.
Yeah,
So it's just like the language is different, but like expectations, the understanding of certain type of things without speaking about it is the same.
right.
And I
Uh,
mean, some of the things like they put into it is very artificial, but it's not different than like people who grow up in LA or people who grow up in New York or people who grow up in Toronto.
yeah.
Like
No,
some of these things like yeah. You know what I mean?
My most francophone friend there, his number one hobby was Marvel stuff. And I mean, I don't want to say the Disney Corporation is saving the world, but that made it very easy to talk to him, even if my French and his English were both far from perfect. So on this album, Papa Smurf's number 7, it actually is a lot of what I think of as classic Silk Prince songs, including this one song that I'd been saying for years, why haven't you recorded already? A song called Feel It. What made you decide this was the time I finally got the mix right?
Yeah, actually tomorrow I'm going to get the mix right. So I'm going to finally fix it up. I was just recording some backups actually right now to add to it to make it even much better.
Mm.
And then just clean it up. And yeah, yo man, I just decided that these songs I perform them a lot, so I know them by heart. And I had to record them.
Right.
And then trust me, I could be recording forever and ever. I just had to stop at 13 and then just work on them to kind of perfect them. And then maybe next month or so I'll decide to start the process again.
Right. So that this particular song, has it been like 4 years that you've been trying it?
Around 3.5 or so, yeah.
Yeah. So another great song on this record is Oligarchs, which is one of your sort of politically savvy tracks. Can you tell us a little about that one?
Yeah, Oligarchs is about like corruption in the Western in Western politics basically, and Eastern politics and politics all around in general. And so I was just talking about Julian Assange. He was the one who did the data leaks and stuff like that, and just talking about like having integrity, because a lot of information is fake. So because a lot of things not real, you kind of have to be real yourself, and you have to be like the anchor
Right.
in everything. That's it. So it's like you have to have integrity, you have to be real, you have to deal with real information, you know what I mean? You have to get real information, you have to give real information.
For sure. Yeah. And I mean, I know you sometimes watch MSNBC. They're not big fans of Assange. Are there any resources you turn to that help you keep your own integrity? Like how do you keep your thoughts your own in a world of big liberal and big conservative propaganda?
Well, I mean, I watch Democracy Now. I watch a lot of Black media, and I read a lot of Black media, and I watch like Russian television sometimes, some Chinese television. You know what I mean? You just get different perspectives. Yeah, you get different perspectives to understand like what's actually going on.
Any Dominican newspapers?
Long time I haven't. Like,
yeah, so there's nothing they're putting out there. I was just curious.
No, I mean, I actually know what's going on, so I don't have to read the newspaper.
Fair enough. Yeah. And I mean, not only do you have these avert politics, sometimes you express them in a kind of provocative way. So I know another of your songs you wrote from the perspective of a Trump supporter, and you just sort of sneak in a Trump 2016 in there. So what was going on with that song?
No, that song was about like basically like the demographic change with like women like kind of like dominating like the workforce, and Trump being like a reaction to that, really. And that is really like, it was really simple as that. It wasn't like too complicated more than that, but people kind of forget like Hillary Clinton was a woman. But the same thing happened in Brazil like 2 years before, you know what I mean? And nobody was like, I mean, obviously me, I was mad about that, but like people like her, she was like supporting that. I mean, I was saying to myself, like, why would you support something like that when something like that can happen to you? You know, like you support something like that, it happens to you. Because it's the same mentality that was used to do. And it's actually the same guy, He's so funny, I mean, it's the same guy actually came. Like in Brazil, they got the guy from Bolsonaro, and here they got the Trump guy.
Right.
So it was really
So
that, you know what I mean? That's what
yeah,
I think.
so I think what you're saying is that while I think we both would lean towards liking Dilma Rousseff and not so much liking Hillary Clinton, both are cases where you have more gender equality, but economic inequality is still a problem. So it feels like a lot of men, rather than just thinking about the whole system, they just resent the new women in power.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, that's what I mean to say. And so that
Right.
song was just about that, basically.
Right. I mean, does the song offer any solutions, or you're just being cynical and you're like, well, the world's going to be this way for a while?
Well, I mean, saying it actually is the solution, because like a lot of the time is lack of communication. So once you see at least them woman or them guys, they know that is actually what going on. Then you add logic to it. You know what I mean? Okay, well, these things are emotions. Because sometimes it's emotion mixed with logic, like the logic of the demographic change, and then the emotion of the person, let's say, who, who is a leader. Maybe the person not charismatic, maybe the person don't understand the dynamics that are actually happening.
Yeah.
Because they're living in it, So like you give the information, and then people can discuss it, and they communicate, and then they come up with a solution themselves.
Yeah. I guess what discouraged me is, back in 2016 when Bernie Sanders made a real run at the nomination, I thought, okay, this is a good sign that America as a whole is turning left. But then, one primary later, Joe Biden does a lot better than Hillary Clinton does, despite, having basically the same politics. It makes me think, okay, maybe people weren't shifting to the left. Maybe they, just didn't like Hillary Clinton because she was a woman. But we just got to keep trying, I guess. Get the message out there, and maybe the real leftward shift will eventually come.
Exactly. That I think that was it. I mean, because she and Biden are that different.
Outside of the more serious stuff, people who pay attention to the totality of your career will notice the political stuff, but a lot of your songs are just, about the club scene, about exploring Montreal or being
Yeah.
back home. And you like to introduce a lot of Caribbean vernacular. So I know another of my favorite songs of yours is Bounce Up, which I think you told me means run into a good friend and get a really happy energy from it.
Yeah.
Are there any other fun words you got to bring into your songs?
Not really. You know what I mean? Because like that album, I thought it was more like for the North American market, kind of. Like I wasn't really thinking about that, but like some of the songs, like I definitely wanted to translate into the culture what's happening like right now. So some of the songs is like bro code, which is like North American culture, you know what I mean?
Right.
And although I say in like a lot of Caribbean vernacular inside of it, I guess a little bit, like I remember, but a lot of it is due to just what happened in Montreal, basically.
Right. Well, that I don't know. That's awesome because I think as songwriters, all we can write about is what we see, which on the surface is
Yeah,
boring. So all you do is you add a layer of magic or change to what's real, and so you're
yeah,
simultaneously in the Caribbean and in Montreal at once, and you've made up a location.
yeah, something like that. Yeah, like these songs, like I mean, some of it is influenced by the people I met. Like I met you, and then I met this guy from the Dominican Republic, and I met this other guy. Yeah, that's the same guy who actually committed suicide. Actually, yeah. So these are the three people like really like who like had like I met, and they had an influence on my like on my life basically in Montreal. And I mean the record in a way kind of reflects the topics we kind of talk about. So like if me and you, a lot of the things we talk about is more like mature, like I guess it was like about the politics and where things go in.
So I've been asking people about if their various hobbies intersect with music. So we've talked about English majors, psychology major. You're a physics guy. Does that get into your songwriting at all? I know Einstein actually sort of had an artist's mind. He liked to describe his thought process in terms of these grand visions. Do you think physics gets into your songs at all?
No, not really. Maybe subconsciously, but not really. I mean, with physics, I don't really believe in like in religion or God. So none of my songs pretty secular on that level. So, and I mean, I'll talk a little bit of science inside my songs.
Right.
All them things scientifically sung.
It's just a metaphor, but you have one line that I remember striking me when I heard you sing it live, where you said, "I'm a scientist at heart." And I don't think that song actually becomes very scientific, but because I know that side of you, it had more meaning for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And anyway, Silk, would you like to share a song with us?
Yeah, hold on. I think I need one time like this. Hey, yo. I know you feel it, baby. We got something going on. Have you ever met someone who could take it till the morning? So let's get it started. Oh, let me be your someone. I hit it till sundown. Alright. But you make it okay, then you make it simple. You make it simple, jeans with no wrinkle. Photograph taken, what is the location? In Dominica, look on me on vacation. I make a big move, remove the control. Catch me at the windstorm, slipping with a firearm. At the rally at, well let me tell you that additionally, I know you feel it, baby. We got something going on. Have you ever met someone who could take it till the morning? So let's get it started. Ooh, let me be your someone. I hit it till sundown. Alright. They call me some mention, hanging on suspension. All I do is spend fun, bang it to the next one. Take away in plastic, all I hear is static. If it's not paper bro, if it's not xenophobe, oh yeah, we got that. When I interface, tiny antenna, send my mind straight in the space. Players on the field, watching number 4. All I hear is say. I know you feel it, baby. Ooh, yeah. I know you feel it, baby. Ooh, yeah. One time, Little Prince. Yo. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Silk Prince, I missed that song. Glad to hear it again, and thank you for joining us tonight.
Blessed, the pleasure is all mine.
That was my interview with Silk Prince, and it's funny, this was the guy who initiated our friendship because I'm too socially awkward to initiate friendships. And there were times today when he was kind of quiet and shy, but there are also times where you see the full range of his personality, wanting to talk about everything from politics to just having a good time on stage. When you see a Silk Prince set, there's not necessarily going to be a lot of banter between the songs, but hopefully I coaxed some of that banter out of him today, so you can know that there's some three-dimensionality there. But honestly, he has this great falsetto voice. He was the one who introduced me to the Bee Gees, and we sang a duet of How Deep Is Your Love at an open mic together. If I ever am back in the same city as him, that would be a great thing to do. Silk Prince, I hope you enjoyed the experience, and viewer, I hope you enjoyed this experience too, and check out more of my videos on Close Listen. See you next time.